Greetings, YouTube. Both my wife and I are on our second marriages. And at least in my case, in both wedding ceremonies, there were no religious figures whatsoever involved. In fact, in both cases, I had friends become justices of the peace, justices of the peace? Yeah, justices of the peace, so that they could do the ceremony for me, because I basically couldn't think anywhere else to put them in the wedding party, and I wanted them involved in my wedding service. So in the first one, my childhood friend named Tom performed the service for me while wearing a kilt. And in the second ceremony, who I married to my wife Lara, our friend Dorinda performed the service. And she was Lara's best friend, or is her best friend, at one time her roommate, and is the wife of a good friend of mine, Scott Wegner, the artist of Atomic Robo Comics. And the closest thing we had to a figure of divinity may have been Dorinda herself, because she is divine. But in both cases, both my wedding ceremonies, even though they were civil unions in the sense that they were civil services, I was required to get a marriage license. It was called a marriage license. And the state of New Hampshire and the federal government recognized that I am married. And by doing that, I was able to access 1,138 benefits and protections recognized by the federal government for married couples in America. Of course, where am I going with this? Well, I'm going with this in the fact that because not everyone in America can marry who they want to, they are denied access to those 1,138 benefits and protections. And to my mind, that is an act of discrimination, because the government is saying that a segment of society, heterosexual couples, have access to these benefits and protections, while another segment of society, same-sex couples, don't. And I don't like the civil union half measures that some states have put into power. Unless they have exactly the same rights, benefits, and protections as a marriage, they aren't equal, and they shouldn't be allowed. We need true marital equality, true marital parity, and we don't have that in America, at least not most places. Here in the state I live in, New Hampshire, we do have marital equality. It speaks well of our government officials. They actually decided to get off their butts and do something right for once. And I believe that the Republicans have decided not to pursue repealing that, because they have much bigger fish to fry at the moment, because people are all up in arms about taxation and benefits and budgets and things like that. So maybe they're going to put that off till next year, when they'll try to repeal the rights of their fellow citizens, which is a discriminatory and bigoted act, in my opinion, and actually in the opinions of many right-minded people. Now, I know that there are folks out there who will tell me that gay people have the right to marry in America. They can marry a member of the opposite gender and have access to these rights. But that would require them to marry someone they don't love. And so you'd be telling them that if you'd like to access these benefits and these protections, you are being required by the federal government to marry someone you don't love. Now, if I asked your average married person in America today, would they stand for that? Would they tolerate being told by the government that they couldn't marry the person they love, and the only way they could get these benefits and protections is if they married someone they didn't love? I suspect that they would not agree with that. For good reason, because it would be insane. So telling gay people that they can marry someone that they don't love to access these protections and benefits is equally as absurd. What consenting adults do between each other is no one's business. And there are many countries in the world that have recognized this. And the fact that America is so far behind the curve is distressing and disturbing. Now, I realize that many people are going to bring out the old ballywick, and they're going to say that, well, you know, my holy book says it's wrong. That's okay. I'm okay with the fact that your holy book says it's wrong. If your holy book says it's wrong to wear blended fabrics and not eat shellfish, go for it. Follow the guidelines of your holy book. But don't attempt to impose your guidelines upon other people. They're your guidelines, not mine. I don't want them. I don't imagine most people who are seeking same-sex marriage want them either. And attempting to impose those guidelines upon your fellow American citizens through secular law is unethical and immoral. So I'd really like it if you didn't do that. So all the married folk that see this, be aware that you have access to 1,138 benefits and protections that some of your fellow citizens can't access because the government currently doesn't recognize same-sex marriage in most places. Are you comfortable with that? And if you are, why?